There aren't a lot of pre-workouts out there that are designed for that cross-functional athlete. So when you begin training, you need energy, and that's why we've included caffeine anhydrous. In phase 2, your body's demanding ATP. So we've included creatine HCl, and once you're moving, we want to keep it that way. So we've added FitNox to improve performance. We're really dedicated to providing pre-workout options for everyone, for every goal.
This meeting is being recorded.
God.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, my speaker's really loud.
Again, was with 1 million plus followers on social media, as a social media fitness star, what responsibilities come with that?
Yeah, great question. I think when people start doing social media, they don't realize the power and responsibility it is when you have so many eyes on you. You almost want to have a good balance of just being true to who you are and showing the highs and the lows, and also just being who you are unapologetically. But with that, it's also this teeter-tottering balance, if you will, because something that you say or something that you do can also affect a lot of other people. And so I think it's sometimes it can feel like a lot of pressure and a lot on your shoulders because so many eyes are on you in the sense of especially fitness and when it comes to nutrition and things like that, because what works for me may not always work for everyone else. And that's something that I always try to preach on social media. Different workouts that you're doing and how you're eating and how you incorporate things into your life, it can really positively affect some people, and it can also negatively affect others as well. So just being really careful, what you do and what you say, what you share on your platform when it comes to health and nutrition in general.
What are some of the first signs for you that said, hey, you know what, this is really taken off. I have a good thing going here, so let's keep it going.
I think, oh gosh, for me, I did social media for fun in the beginning, just because, when I first started, there wasn't a lot of YouTubers or social media influencers that were women. And for me, I gained this freshman 30 pounds, I think it was, in college, and I didn't really have a woman to turn to. I had a lot of men that were giving me advice, but I felt, and now it's kind of like, I'll take men's advice all the time, but I think in that sense of being very vulnerable and very new to the gym and nutrition, I felt I struggled a little bit with taking men's advice at the time, because like, well, the typical, I don't want to get bulky and things like that. So for me, when I started learning a little bit more about nutrition, fitness, I put myself through bikini shows. I, started training myself. I learned so much, and then I got in great, phenomenal shape. And then that's when I kind of started doing social media. And I was like, I want to give women the tips that I wish I would have had when I started. Just like a sense of community, and also like, hey, like these things really worked for me. It's okay to lift weights. You're not going to get bulky. It's okay to eat carbs. Like, honestly, those little tips and tricks. And doing so, I started gaining this following. And for me, I was biology pre-med. I was working as a surgical assistant. I was, doing social media was not in my future. So I really just did it for fun. And I think that's why people really enjoyed my socials, is because I was like, hey, I'm just doing this for fun. This works for me. I love it. I enjoy it. And I think the one most impactful thing where I was like, okay, I definitely made the right choice, which was really switching to doing social media full time, was when I was at a fitness show and a woman came up to me and said that she had lost, I think it was like 200 pounds or close to 200 pounds just watching my videos. And that it not only positively affected her, but it also affected positively her children. And for me, that hit differently. It wasn't like, oh, this person, loved my outfit, or this person was positively affected by like a snack. I think when you do social media and you have so many eyes on you, you almost think like, oh, they're going to get my favorite recipe, or they're going to get my favorite workout. But people don't realize that power and responsibility is so important, because it can completely change someone else's life and continue from
Maybe
there.
for people new into fitness, or just getting, feeling their way around. How do you sort out legitimate trainers, legitimate fitness advice from stuff that may be a little bit sketchy?
Wow, that's a great question. I feel like there's so much information out there. I mean, it's wild. And sometimes I see information, I'm like, wow, that is so far from the truth. And it can be very overwhelming. And I know that is something that I felt when I first started, is I felt very overwhelmed and just overloaded with information. Everyone's telling you different things, and what's the truth, what isn't, what will work and what doesn't. And I think that's why a lot of people end up doing all these crazy diets and things like that. I would say trying to stick with one source of information, if you will. I think that, registered dietitians are excellent. I think trainers are great. Not being afraid to date, if you will, in the sense of try something out for 4 weeks. And if it doesn't work for you, it's okay to try something else, but really sticking to that thing for 4 weeks, whether that's a new trainer, maybe that's a registered dietitian and things like that. I think a lot of people nowadays want instant gratification. So they'll try something for a few days, a week, it's not working, they move on. But for me, I say it takes about 30 days really to see if something is working for you or not. And also just doing a lot of research. I think a lot of people love to give advice, and a lot of people like to make TikToks with all these like crazy diet fads. So it's really important to do your research and make sure that the information that you're given is backed up.
How important is inclusivity now for women's fitness, as far as a place where everyone of all levels, sizes, whatever, can come into one place and just share and throw ideas at each other and just get ideas, support, and everything else?
Great question. I think it's really important for, honestly, most companies, because at the end of the day, women just want to feel seen and heard and listened to. I think we love listening to women and learning and just being able to give them a product that they love and also that they're proud of to use. I think it's really important to find your people when you get into fitness. I know that really helped me. When I first started, I started going to the gym by myself, and I was not a fan. I remember I just still felt very isolated, alone, and I would do my best, but like all I could hear is just like the weight slamming and people grunting, and it just made me feel very overwhelmed. So a couple tips that really helped me in the beginning is getting noise canceling headphones for sure, a cap to just kind of really focus, and then doing group classes. I think for me, it was less about wanting to do the group classes and more so it made me feel less lonely. And doing classes where people cheer you on. I got really into CrossFit for a little while, mainly in the sense of I felt included. I felt like a community was backing me. And although CrossFit is not meant for everybody, some people, they might enjoy hot girl walks, like everyone sweats differently. And having a community that you can talk to and be inspired by, I think is crucial, especially when you're very first starting, just so you don't feel that loneliness. And,
what was some of the early on, what were some like the mistakes that you may have made that you learned a lesson that you learned that nowadays you'll never go back to that ever again, and you've just evolved into a better athlete, better entrepreneur, and so on and so on?
I think when I very first started fitness, really getting into the gym and getting into weightlifting and getting into fitness in general, I would say, the typical lifting weights is going to make me bulky. That is so far from the truth, because I've been working out for, I think 10 years now, and my legs are not as muscular as I would like them to be. So lifting weights is not going to make you bulky. I think early on, the typical things where people will say, don't eat any carbs or you're going to gain weight. I would say that the typical fitness things that you hear quite often, I definitely learned that pretty quickly. I would say entrepreneurial avenue, communication goes a long way. So you can never over communicate, but you can under communicate for sure. Working with teams is great as long as you can communicate with your team and have a clear vision on what you are trying to do. Those are the two that kind of came off the top of my head.
From there, how important is it to, I think every question starts how important, but how important is it to evolve from professionally, from social media to a fitness, to a clothing line, to Buff Bunny? Like, how important is it just to keep getting better and better instead of just being complacent and continuing to do what brought you success early on?
Yeah, great question. I would
Long
say,
one too, I know.
no problem. I would say there's a word I like to say a lot in the office, which I was saying a lot yesterday, is pivot. Pivot is a huge part of my vocabulary. Now, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to creating your own business, when it comes to social media, pivot is a word that you will get used to quite often. When it comes to social media, there's so many different social media platforms, and what worked on Instagram, let's say 5 years ago, is not working today. So realizing that you can't really have a certain calculation or a certain framework, if you will, that will continuously work forever. I think with social media, you can have a great framework for, I would say, like a quarter of the year, and then you need to pivot and switch things up just to get with the times. Same thing with athletic wear. Since I own an athletic wear line for women, the style changes, the trends change. Women loved ultra high-waisted leggings, I think, 10 years ago, and now it's getting more towards that mid-rise to high-rise type of little things like that. I think when it comes down to it, just listening to your customers, listening to women in general, or men, whoever your target audience is, and just having conversations with people. I love chatting with people, like next to someone on the plane or in an Uber. I think that you can learn things from all different types of people, and just absorbing that information, just being a sponge and taking that information that you learn and applying it into your products, and making sure that you're creating products that people really want to purchase. And also with social media, listening to people, it's like, what do you want? Why do you follow those people? What do you enjoy about their social media platforms? And not necessarily copying. Sometimes it's something as simple as people just want education, or they just want someone to give them a platform where it's just like, show me cute outfits every day. And so I think it just comes down to really listening to people and applying that.
How important, how easy is it to just neglect your own self-care, and how important should people be aware of that?
That's a great question. And my biggest piece of advice, which I've kind of shared in my social media platforms, YouTube channel, all the things, is creating boundaries for sure is one of them. So when it comes to work, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to family, I mean, we're all busy. All of us are crazy busy, and we have a lot going on. And so really making sure that you set boundaries to where you don't neglect yourself, and you will set an appointment with yourself. That's my favorite thing. So for me, I will put on my calendar, I have a workout at 6:00 p.m. and it cannot be missed. Obviously, if something urgent comes up, that's different. But if you put it on your calendar and you set that appointment with yourself and you hold yourself accountable, that's your me time. And if maybe it's not a workout, maybe you are an artist and you love to paint, put that on your calendar, just making sure that you're not neglecting yourself, because at the end of the day, life is so short. And I know that we all have deep passions for what we do in life, whether that's working out and fitness and all the things, but just making sure that you make the time for yourself, both mental and physical.
Last question. Once again, how important is it to get away from the grind and just have some balance in your life?
I mean, I think that's crucial. I think burnout is a big thing. I love what I do, and if anything, I really have to tell myself to stop working sometimes. It's hard when you really enjoy your work and you are very passionate about what you do. But there are times when I'm like, you know what? A part of me wants to sit down and create this epic mood board for a collection I want to come out with. But I know that sometimes it's also important for me to just shut my brain off for a little bit, put on some trash TV and eat some ice cream, because it is important for balance. And also, burnout is a real thing. And if you push yourself to the point where you're just completely burned out, you'll end up getting way less done. And it can also just be very taxing on your mental and physical well-being.
So what is the one guilty pleasure or one, I guess, activity that people would be surprised that you do on your off time?
Oh gosh. All right. Hold on. I'm gonna put myself out there. I play this game on my it's called Ebony, the King's Choice. And I basically build an army. And I attack other countries, and I build wheat. So I think that's a guilty pleasure, where sometimes people think I'm working on my phone and I'm really just building an army. It's a lot of fun.
I don't have a follow-up to that, but like it's like somehow, some way.
People probably think I'm playing Sims or some simple game. I'm like, no, I'm building an army right now.
Nice.
And I'm growing some wheat and steel.
Perfect ending right there.